All right, friends. Let us start. Good afternoon once again. My name is Ella Mosho, and I'll be your anchor. I'll first start with cryptocurrency. Then from there, I'll first start with cryptocurrency. Then let me mute everybody. Yeah, so I've muted everybody. If I want you to be interactive at any point in time, I'm going to unmute. Then I'll ask questions. So I'll first start with cryptocurrency. Then from there we go to forex market. Now the essence of this is for us to have an idea of what price might do over the week, what price has done, a review of what price has done, and what it can do over the week, so that during your trading period in the week, during the week, you can watch out for those kind of patterns or those kind of changes in price action so as not to be caught unaware. So if you are supposed to stop your selling at a certain point, you'll be able to know. You are supposed to kick off a buy at a certain point, you're supposed to know. Now, also, the essence of this webinar is also for the sake of people that, they may not be able to come for training, but at least this can help them in their trading. So just like I said, I want to start with cryptocurrency because I have been receiving increasing demand from some traders that I should help them to look at what is happening in the crypto markets, then come up with my suggestions. So I'll be starting with Bitcoin, and a whole lot of us have actually been looking at what is happening in Bitcoin, and I think it is very important that I try to let us understand the price action so far and what we might expect in the coming week or months. So over the period, this is what has happened so far. You have had this aggressive bullish move to the upside. Um, I'm trying to clear drawing. I don't know which other drawing is happening right here. But we have had this aggressive move to the upside, and eventually we now started having these correction phases. And if you ask me, this is actually a very, very deep correction. And I wasn't expecting this correction to be as this deep. I was thinking that price is going to stop around this zone, which was my thoughts about the whole thing. I was thinking that price is going to stop around this zone, but we still had some down move right now. So, but I wasn't caught unaware, and I can take you back to the analysis I did some time ago in my to yeah, I tried to do this. I tried to put everybody on the alert when Bitcoin was about to come down. Now let me shift this to the lower part because it seems to be disturbing me. Yes. So right from here, if I go to my Telegram, if I go to my team viewer, sorry, let me quickly search for Bitcoin. And there was a time that from the top, I was already asking people if I already alerted people that Bitcoin might start selling from that point. So just hold on. I'm trying to bring out the setup. Okay, I think this was the setup right there at December 21st of December last year. And so when I saw the pattern, I could see that we may be heading for a very heavy fall because it was so obvious. And if you are not a trader, if you don't really know what you are doing, or if you are a novice, you may not really know you are not supposed to buy at this zone. This is a neckline in such a way that if this neckline breaks down, it's going to fall deep. The fall is going to be very deep. And so I was saying that I could see a shoulder head shoulder pattern across this section, and with this crypto coin fall from here, and I said perhaps, and I don't need to click on next because we all know what happened eventually from that point onwards. it just kept on going down and down. And so this was my projected level. I projected that it's going to fall to around the 11,000 or 10,000 thereabout. So it ranged around that point and eventually do as if it was still going to go up. Then it now started coming down. And the coming down was so massive in such a way that, yeah, it came down here. And from there, I started giving signal for sell setup. So every wave movement around this place, I've actually predicted them. That's what we had right there. And if you look at this one too, immediately it came down here. I let people know that after the fall, now this is one thing you need to understand. This is a bullish market. And immediately price break below this neckline, we have switched away from the bullish market to a bearish market. And so every opportunity to buy will be very short. So you should only be looking for a sell setup. And this is where some people got it wrong. So I don't advise you trading cryptocurrency if you don't have the skills, but I also do not advise you buying it when you don't have a knowledge of what price might do. I understand that some people bought around here, and right now market has gone down and they are panicking. Some of them have been disturbing me in my group, trying to know if Bitcoin will still keep going down. But you need to understand that the technical analysts or everybody, the professionals in the market already saw this move. And the reason why this is happening is because majority of the people that bought around this zone will definitely take their profit. And this is what we call an ND diagonal. So we had an ND diagonal structure that combines with the head shoulder pattern. So this is an ND diagonal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you have, so the fall is so imminent. If you have been taking close in the market, it is an obvious fall. And right there, I told people that it's going to come here and go up and come down, which I predicted an ABC simple correction. And that was exactly what happened right there. So if I click on the next price action, we will see that price eventually came to around this 9,000 zone. So for some people that doesn't know anything about cryptocurrency or forex trading, immediately this is happening, they will be crying that crypto is falling, but if you take time to really understand the market and look at it very well, you'll be able to see that the professionals already knew this was going to come, and they know where the next buying point will be before it gets there. And eventually, this is what I'm trying to do right now. What I'm trying to do right now is to let you guys see the analysis so that in the coming week, you can be able to look out for what price might do. And over the period of the week, I'd already told people to be looking for a buy setup, because I understand that, yes, cryptocurrency, Bitcoin has been coming down, and this is the final phase that it has gotten to. My first prediction was around the $9,000, and my next prediction, which I gave later in the group, was that it can test the 5,000 zone. So if I go back to the chart right now, the MT4, I'm using the John Anthony trading platform to do the analysis on MT4. Now this was what I did initially, which was what you can see on the TradingView. And here you had your shoulder, head, and shoulder before market flushed down. But eventually, when you look at what we have right now, you would see this and this. So this was where I predicted the ABC correction before market came down. And we further added structure also, which is another simple correction. So you have impulse, then you have a correction, you have another impulse, you have a correction, which is this. Let me change this color. Impulse, then you have a correction. 1, 2, 3 correction. Then you have another impulse. Then you have a correction. 1, 2, 3 correction. And you have another impulse right here. Impulse. Now you realize that we are not having a 1, 2, 3 correction anymore. And so right here, we are looking at a different pattern. If you as a trader cannot foresee, you don't have a foresight of what market might do, you might be caught unaware. Now, these are not happening by chance. these are happening because they are patterns that can be seen by professional traders, and as such, they know what to expect. So what are we expecting right now, which is what I want to show to you guys. And eventually, majority of all these things that I'll be doing right here, you will also realize that you also realize that every other cryptocurrency pairs, like the BCH, that's Bitcoin Cash, the Ethereum, Litecoin, and all that, have a similar structure. So because they are driven by BTC. So if you are able to get the BTC right, you'll be able to get the other cryptocurrency right. Now, there's something you need to look out right now that I want to show you guys, and it's a very interesting thing. Now, I'm not saying that price cannot break below this level. This level is, let me bring out my arrow, and let me try to get the price. So we had that price came around the, maybe I can change the color so that it should be very visible. So we had that price tested around the 5,900 zone. And so that is one interesting zone. Another interesting zone was here, which was where I predicted initially, which is around the $9,000, and then this 5,000. So there are two things that price can do here. If price is going to keep going lower, this is what it should do. And as a trader, that is what you should know. You are supposed to have an idea of what price is doing and what it might do going forward. So if this market is going to go lower, then it has to repeat the same kind of structure that it has done around here. It also has to repeat the same kind of structure that it has done around here. So if this price is going to go lower, then we are in another corrective phase right now. And so this is one impulse move to the downside, just as we had it before. And now we are going to have a correction right here. 1, A, B, C, then it can go lower. That is one scenario. So if this market is going to go down, this is what you need to do again, which it has done here. It did it here, it did it here, and it may most likely also do it here. Now, if it's going to go higher, that means we are now going to switch from the bear territory to the bull territory. Then this is what we should expect. Now, if you take your trend line and draw it, you realize price has actually been trading within this area. Now, the bull market will emerge immediately. Price start trading above this region, above this area. That is when the bull market has started. Until when this has happened, we are still in the bear territory. If price fails to break below this trend line, we are still in the bear territory, and we can expect something like this to go lower. But if it's going to go up, as we have right now, because many expectations is that they want to see crypto go up, then this is what you should look out for. Now, we have two patterns that I'm going to show to you guys. This has become the neckline right here, which I believe many of you can already see that. Where's the test? I'm going to put neckline here. This is the neckline where you should watch out for. A break above that signifies we are now going upwards. Now, this is the neckline. Now, if this market is going to go up, then it needs to do exactly this. This. So in this case, we have now switched from a bear market to a bull market. And so you now have this to be your first impulse, then you have a correction. Now, this correction might be simple. If it's going to be simple, the market is not going to range much before it goes up. But I'm expecting it to be complex. I'm expecting it to be complex because we have been in a downtrend. As we can see, we have been in a downtrend. So we are expecting that there will be war, bear and bull war around here. The bear and bull war is expected because as market gets here, some people that think this price is still going to go down will sell. So when they sell, it will go down. And when it gets around this area again, some people that are expecting to buy low, that they missed from this point, those people that missed from this point are going to start looking at this zone to buy. So it will go up again. So you start having bear bull, until when it breaks above this major trend line that I drew initially, this one, until when it breaks above this trend line. Once it broke above this trend line, then the people that have been looking at selling before, we now see a new change in trend of a buy opportunity. And that is when you now start having your next impulse to the upside. So right now, the cryptocurrency is actually at the critical point where anything can happen. And the two scenario is very simple. If it's going to go higher, then it needs to give us something like a flag, or it needs to break this length, straight neckline area, where you have your shoulder, head, and shoulder, inverted head and shoulder to break to the upside, or you have a bearable wall to be happening around here, where you have the next move to go to the upside. If that fails, then that's when you can have a continuation to the downside, and we'll be expecting a structure that looks like what it has done before, which is this. It comes down, it goes up again, fails to break above this area, it comes down again, go up again. And so we might have A, B, C, D, E, maybe a triangle or just normal ABC correction, and you have the next move to the downside. So whichever way is going to form, you just need to be on the lookout so that when it is doing that, you are able to do justice to it accordingly. And that is how professional traders look at the market. They don't just gamble. There are some people that don't know about Forex, and they feel that in Forex, everything that has to do with Forex is gambling. No. If you want to know how to trade properly, then you need to know and see how the professional traders look at the market and analyze the market. So that's just it about the Bitcoin part. And let me go to Bitcoin Cash, for instance. Now, we have a structure, just like I told you before. We have a very similar structure across all the cryptocurrency pairs, where I can see inverted SHS here, and any break above this level, any break around here will give you a bullish trend. And also, you can see that we have a trend line. You can see that we have this kind of trend line in such a way that a break above this structure will give you the bullish, we switch from the bear territory to the bull territory. And if that is not going to happen, so let us, for instance, assume that that's, look at the second scenario, that this is not what is going to happen, then you are going to have this. Once you start having something like this, then it means that we are having a continuation to the downside, where this become your impulse, then correction, then the next impulse. Just as you have it here, impulse, then correction, then the next impulse. So that's all it for I'm going to attend to questions later on. I don't want to have a distorted class, so I just let me just continue. Now for Ethereum, we have this kind of structure for Ethereum. It's a little different from Bitcoin, and I was expecting that it's going to be that different also. Now for the Bitcoin, just like what I told you before, let me clear all this drawing right here. So what I showed you before is this. Now, if I want to quickly use my Elliott wave, for some of you guys that know that I usually like the Elliott wave principle, then I would like to see that here is where you have your 1. Let me show. Here is where you have your 1, 2, then 3, 4, and 5. Now, eventually, all this didn't happen at an accident, in such a way that before you have this movement to the downside, it didn't happen as an accident. So the same way that we saw that, we are going to look at that in the Ethereum also. Now for this Ethereum, you can see that we had this structure right here that already showed us that we are going to switch from a bull territory to a bear territory, where you have your ending diagonal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 before market flush to the downside. Eventually, you had this correction phase also, which is this. So you had your impulse, here, a correction, then the next impulse. Now, if this market is going to go for the next correction phase, just like what we have done before, this becomes your baseline right here. This area becomes your baseline, and this area becomes your baseline. So you can now expect it to do something like this, then go lower. So that is how you can predict what it can do before you even get there. Now, if we are not going to keep on going lower, then what should we expect right from here? If it's going to start going to the upside, what are we going to expect? Well, it's very simple. if market is going to start going to the upside, then this is now your impulse, your first impulse move, which is this. I'm going to draw this now. Let me use the yellow, which is this, your first impulse. Then this become your flag setup, which is this, and this. So invariably, if market is going to go to the upside, then it needs to do this. As it has gone up here, come down, go up again, come down, go up again, come down. Now, it depends on the kind of structure you can do. You can do just a simple ABC correction and go to the upside. You can do, which is what we call a flat correction in Elliott wave. You can do a complex where you have your WXYX. In such an instance, if you're going to be forming a complex structure, then it's going to give you, the first one is going to be a zigzag. Where this is your WXY, then it do something like this. And it's going to form a slant setup before it blasts to the upside. Now that's the second formation it can give you. Now the third one is this simple flat that I just showed you right here, where it does this, come down and go to the upside. So whatever is going to happen in the market is not supposed to catch you unaware. You have this impulse, then you have a correction, and for the next impulse. If that is not going to happen, if the price fails to break above this area, then it's definitely in a corrective phase, and you're going to have this, where markets will now continue to the downside. So I can attend to questions now because all the setups are kind of similar. When I check them, you have a similar structure across every of all these crypto, whether it's Litecoin, it's Neo, it is Monero, it's SRP or whatever. A drive on the Bitcoin, we drive all of them to start trending to the upside. So once you're able to get the analysis well on the Bitcoin chart, then you can look forward to adding to your portfolio of other coins. Now I'm going to unmute the stuff right now so that anybody that has a question, you can attend to it before I go to Forex. Any question? Any question, guys? Do we have a question before I go to the next?
Thank you, Mr. Lemonshaw. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, thank you very much for the lecture.
Yeah.
So first of all, I want to ask, for the graph you are using,
yeah,
where exactly can we have a kind of demo like that, or a kind of real access to that graph in such a way that we can be able to use it for future purpose? That's number one.
Are you talking about the MT4?
MT4.
Are you talking about this trading platform MT4, or you are talking about TradingView, or what are you talking about?
I mean the graph you use. That where exactly can we get it?
Which graph?
The graph for the Bitcoin. Sorry, you are talking about Bitcoin against dollars, and you have a kind of graph.
Okay, can you see your chart right now? Are you referring to this setup that you're looking at?
Okay.
What you're referring to? Is this what you are referring to?
Yeah.
This is MT4.
Okay.
This is MT4, and I'm using John Anthony Forex. That's JAFX.
Okay.
Yeah. So you should just go to Google and just type JAFX or John Anthony Forex. Yeah. Then you download the platform. They have. Let me let you see some of the symbols that they have. So this is their cryptocurrency market. Yeah. So you just select what you want to view, and the chart will show online real time 24/7.
Okay.
What's the next question?
Okay, then okay, take for instance from the previous graph you try to analyze.
Yeah.
You talk about the shoulder, you talk about the head and the shoulder.
Yeah.
So whenever, maybe in the past, let's say for the past 3, 4, or a week 3 ago, we are able to locate the edge, the shoulder, and another edge. How can we now, as a trader, how can we now use that means to predict if there will be a kind of pump or dump?
Well, the matter is there are some things that I cannot disclose right here in this training weekly webinar outlook.
Okay.
Sorry, because
Okay.
they're actually outside the scope now. For my student, for instance,
No.
but let me give you the right here. Now this becomes your baseline. Yeah, can you see what I've drew? It becomes your baseline. So that means you're supposed to be in buy right here. Even before price does this. Let me change the color for you to see. Before this happened at all, before this one happened, you are
Okay.
supposed to have seen this and expect that this is going to happen. You understand? So immediately
Okay.
market pull back and it failed to break below this level, then you enter your trade. Now your tight level is going, your SA level is going to be very close. It's going to be around there because if price breaks below this level and comes down, then it's definitely going to go for that corrective phase that I showed you. And you don't want to be in the trade. That's how to do a proper stop loss zone. Some people don't know how to put stop loss, and they will follow some signals that they will give them rubbish stop loss. Now, your stop loss will be very tight compared to somebody that is going to buy around here, waiting for the neckline to break. The stop loss zone will be, the risk will be very high. So, which is why it is very imperative that when you are analyzing the market, you look at it very well and follow it up at any time. So I've been following this for the past a week now, and I've got to realize that this is where the each of the traders, anybody that wants to trade right now, this is the best level for you to have traded for a buy. So I told somebody in the group, I think during the week when he was asking, because I said, just go and buy Bitcoin for now. This was what I saw before I said. So I guess that gave you a clue as to how to spot your entry level.
Okay.
The worst that will now happen when you enter here is when you enter here and the market doesn't go up as you expected and it's correcting, you're actually going to be in the trade until when the structure has changed, where the whole setup, this SHS and this flag setup has been invalidated. That is when you now get it wrong. But for now, you are still up. Any other question?
Thank you very much.
Okay. Does anybody have any other question? And if you are here for cryptocurrency, you can decide to go to leave now because I'll be switching off to the Forex analysis. If there's no more question, can I go to Forex now?
Yeah, you can go. You just answered my own question.
Oh. So this is, I'll be analyzing about 20 pairs in the Forex market, and it may take up some quite while, but I'll try to be as fast as possible. And just like before, I'm going to mute everybody so that the noise will not be too much. So for the Forex market, the way I do my thing is this. I analyze the Elliott wave count on the daily time frame and market structure on the 4-hour time frame. Then on the 1 hour or thereabouts, you now form my entry and some other things. There are some things I can't disclose right here, but at least I'll try my very possible best to give you a clue about what to do or what to watch out for. Now, this is the Euro US dollars daily time frame. And if you remember that I was telling you that I wasn't looking for any buy opportunity around this zone anymore because market had gone this far. The whole market has been grossly overbought. And so I don't want to miss on the next impulse that's going to happen in the market, So which was why, even though I was in a buy, I was in a sell before, and market still did not respect. I think my sell was around here, and market still went up as high as this level before it eventually now started coming down. So what am I expecting right here? And if you remember in my last webinar, I told you guys that for this, even if this market is going to keep on going to the upside, you should expect a correction. So this is a move to the upside, for instance, which was what happened last week. And I was telling you that it needs to get to at least this zone around here. You need to get to, you need to correct this move to the upside. This move to the upside needs to be corrected before we start thinking of another move to the upside, or we want to start going to the downside. And that's what market has done eventually. So if you are one of the people that took this trade, then I give you thumbs up. Now, if I go to the 4 hours time frame, which is this, I have my setup too on the 4 hours. Now, this was the line that I just drew on the Euro USD daily. I'm going to switch it to the 4 hours time frame now, and let us look at the price action together. Now, if you remember that in the group, I gave you a sell setup around here, which was a bad formation, and the bad formation was quite easy to spot, which is this control 1, which is this. This was what I gave you guys in the group. And so we are expecting that price is going to still test this zone. We are expecting that price is going to still test this zone here, the 1.20787 zone. Now it's going to test this zone because for a bad formation, the formation is that price will get to around the 88.6 retracement of this move to the upside. If I'm going to calculate that right now from this low to this high, so you realize that this is actually the 78.6 zone, and there's a possibility that price will even get to the 88.6, which is this area. So this is your buy zone, for instance. If the Euro USD is still going to start going to the upside, then this area is where you need to watch out for before you start going to the upside. But for now, eventually during the week, I saw another pattern on the 1 hour time frame. Let me go to the 1 hour time frame. I saw another pattern on the 1 hour time frame, which gives me a setup of something like a Gatling. I can't remember, but I remember that I told you. Let me go to my Telegram and see if I can quickly spot it. I remember that I told you that once price breaks below the 88.6, then you should not be in any buy setup right there. You should actually close your buy setup. The reason is that was a counter trade, and the essence of it is this: based on our analysis on the Euro USD daily, we saw that there may be price might still go to the upside, but we don't know where exactly it's going to get to before it starts going to the upside. And so every opportunity to take a trade, to edge your position, you are supposed to take it since you are already in a sell. Now, the essence of this is this: if I'm going to be selling, for instance, I'm trying to scroll down to the last part, but let me quickly explain what I'm trying to talk about. If I'm selling from this zone right here, I'm selling. And I know that market is still going to get to, let me change the color. I know market is still going to get to this area, but I don't know if it's actually going to get to that area or not. You know, in the Forex market, you don't know what price will actually do, but you are supposed to have an idea of what price might do. And so what if market is coming down to this area and decide to first go back up to retest this zone before eventually now coming down to come and test this zone? That means every opportunity, every sell opportunity that you've made right here has been swept away by this singular move to the upside. So which is where edge comes in. And so if there's a tendency that price is going to go to the upside, you edge your position so that you don't lose out from this this blessing that the market has eventually given you. Then when it has shown a momentum to now continue to go to the downside, you close the buy and you let the others ride, which was what I was trying to do right here. I've not gotten to the last part, but I know majority of you guys know what I'm talking about. Okay, I think I'm just about getting to the place. So okay, yeah, that's it. Yeah, I just saw it right now. Okay, yeah. So this was what I gave to you guys, and the SL was very tight because I know that if it breaks above, if it breaks below this level, then we are still going to go as low as testing this area right here, and you don't want to be in this flush to the downside. So our expectation for for this week on Euro USD is this. Now we have a clear neckline that has been forming right here, right here. So what I'm expecting price to do, if for some people that doesn't know market very well, they will panic when markets start going up like this. They will think it's actually going to, it has resumed the bull trend. But you need to realize we have this correction right here, and here can be your shoulder, this can be your head, and this can be your shoulder. And eventually you can now have this, the final move to the downside before before price can now start either see going to the downside or respect this trend line and start changing to the upside based on the bath pattern that I showed to you guys right here. So at market open tomorrow, for instance, you might have this correction to the upside. It doesn't mean the bull trend has started. It just means that we are having a correction, and if you are still in your buy position that I gave you right there, you can still hold it and hold it to around this area right here. Then you can close your buy because you still have one more impulse to the downside. Now for okay, let me. I think I should do it interactive as I finish on currency pair. I might just ask if anybody has ask questions so that I will not just talk blindly and all that. So does anybody has question on the Euro USD before I go forward? You guys are unmuted right now. Any question on the Euro USD? Any question on the Euro USD, or can I move on? Move on,
sir. One question, please.
Move on.
What's the question?
From your bat formation, the B leg did not touch the 38.2. Does that make any difference?
Say what?
From the bat formation, the B leg did not hit the 38.2.
I mentioned it right there. I gave you this at your buy zone. This area as your buy zone. That this is where you need to start looking out for your candlestick formation. This shaded portion around here. And if you calculate the number of pips from here to here, it's just about 75 pips.
Okay.
You understand? So it's not something you should worry about. But for a bad formation, placement is supposed to be at the 88.6.
88.6,
yeah. Any other question? Can I move on?
Yeah, you can move on.
I'm going to the Euro JPY now. So we are going to start with the okay, I will mute everybody. We are going to start with the daily time frame, just like I told you guys before. Now, in the daily time frame, I showed you guys before that, okay, this was where I eventually started telling you guys to look out for a sell opportunity, but it didn't happen, and markets keep doing this. And if you check this area, this had been in since October 2017. It doesn't change the fact that we are still looking for our next down move to the downside. It doesn't change it. The only thing that happened is that market went for an ending diagonal before flushing to the downside. And majority of you would know what the ending diagonal is, where you have this, your 1, your 2, your 3, your 4, and your 5, before you now have this impulse to the downside. So don't be looking for any buy opportunity right now because of the structure that we can see. I gave this sell signal around here. I remember quite vividly. And I also remember that I went to, was it the Euro, was it the weekly time frame? Let me check the weekly time frame. I saw a similar structure somewhere. Okay, this was the structure I saw right here. This structure was what I saw. No, this is not what I want. This structure was what I saw. And I told you guys that on the 4 hour time frame, Euro JPY is going to do exactly this kind of a thing. That's what is going to happen on the 4 hour time frame. Now we are going to go to the 4 hour time frame. And we will see if that was eventually what we had or not. But I remember I posted something like that here, which is this. Yeah, Euro JPY. This was how Euro JPY was before, and I told you that it's going to come down. This was the before, and this was the after. It was because of this structure that I could see. And I was telling you guys not to be looking for any buy opportunity. You should just look forward to sell. And that was what we had right here on the 4 hours time frame. You can see this structure, which is this, is very similar to this structure on the weekly time frame. This is very similar to this. Drawing pattern is very similar to this. So your job as a trader sometimes is that you want to try to look at patterns that are repeating themselves in the market, and once you see them, don't dull yourself. Just take it straight, because patterns do repeat themselves. Human psychology remains the same each time you trade. And so you have this flush to the downside. But what are you going to expect on market open on Monday, for instance? You're going to expect something like this, a pullback. Now, this market is going to pull back from here because of this singular reason that I'm going to show right now. The simpler reason is this. We have a 1.618. So market is exactly at the 161.8 right here. Expansion of this move to the upside. So we usually be having a reaction around the 161.8, the 127.2 and 161.8. So you expect this to now happen to the upside before you now start having your movement to the downside. Your movement to the downside is expected also because of this structure that we have on the daily time frame, where we are expecting our correction of this move to the upside. This move to the upside is supposed to correct before you now continue your journey to the upside. And the market's rule, the rule for this is that it's not supposed to go lower than the wave one. And this is where your wave one ended. And so if market is going to correct itself, then it may most likely correct it around the 38.2, which is where you see that my wave 4 ended, around the 30.2 and the 50% of the previous move. Euro AUD. Okay, before I go to the Euro AUD, do we have any question? Then if you have any question, just let me know, then I'll attend to that. Any question on Egypt? Do you have any question on Egypt? Can I go on then?
Yes.
And so I'll be going to the Euro AUD right now. And for the Euro AUD, this is what I explained to you guys before, that we should be looking for a sell opportunity. And if I zoom in higher, you'll see the structure right here. So we have this forming already in this area. We have this forming already. And you have this consistent rejection of this area on the daily time frame. So we'll be looking forward for a sell opportunity. And if I go to the daily time frame, if I go to the weekly time frame, the 4 hour time frame, this is what we have on the 4 hour time frame. But right there on the daily time frame too, we can see something that would look like a bad formation, which is this. From this low to this high. And you can see market did not touch the 61.8. It actually ended around the 0.5, that's 50% retracement. Then it retraced about 100%, And so we're expecting that it can get to the 88.6 zone around this area, around here, before we can have the next move to the upside. So right here, this is what you should be expecting. I'm expecting this. The price is going to give me this kind of formation right here. It's going to come down, go up, then come down. That is my long-term setup for this pair, the Euro AUD. But it's not going to get there within the short period of time. Based on the structure that I can see, the overall structure, you can see this low and you can see this high. So it's going to, you can see this high right here. It's going to connect. That's the overall big structure. It is too deep for a whole lot of you to see, but I'm just trying to let you see what you can expect over the course of the months. Now, since we already have our expectation of a bad formation, there are two things that can happen right there going forward. Right here, you will realize that we have this consistent rejection of this zone, and we have this consistent rejection of this zone. So it means that if this market is going to go up, then this is your impulse, then this will be your correction, then the next impulse. So there are two things we are looking out for right now. If market is going to go up, it will keep on rejecting this zone, and you should look forward to being that trade to the upside. But in most cases, based on what I can observe right here, I think that we might have a very complex structure. Invariably, price might do something like this. In which case, it might want to end with an ending diagonal before it start going to the downside. And so that's why sometimes when I give a sell structure, a buy setup, and market does not respect it straight up, I can see the structure and change immediately. But if you don't understand it and you are trading by yourself, you won't know, and you just close your trade. And eventually, by the time the downpour starts, you will not be in that trade. That is what happened in the Euro JPY. And so right here, if anytime market comes to this high, sell it. If it comes to this low, take out 50% of your sell and break even. That's how to do this kind of a trade, because it may still come back again. And if it gets it again and refuse to break this high, sell it. When it comes to the middle, take out half, break even, because you don't want to miss on this next impulse to the downside. You don't want to miss on it straight up. So that is how to trade this kind of a setup. Eventually it can do something like this and go to the upside, and you don't want to miss on that too. But I'm not looking for a buy opportunity based on the structure that I can see on the daily time frame, which is the fact that even on the weekly time frame, the setup is very clear. We are in something that look like an a triangle, ABCDE. So we are expecting an ABC to the downside for the E before we have the next correction to the upside. Or at the very worst, it might just be that it's going to just give us a very simple ABC correction, ABC correction before it goes to the upside. Now, I'm not going to be looking for any buy opportunity right here, because it needs to correct this move at least before it start going to the upside. So how do you know if it will now go to the upside? This is your baseline, and this is your baseline. So you can now have this. So even if it's going to go up at all, it needs to first come down. You can do this. And the number of pips that you have for this kind of range is about 480 or 500 pips. So that's a very big range. It looks very small, but by the time you go to the 4 hours, for instance, you will see how big structure can be. So that is my expectation on the Euro JPY, Euro AUD. Sorry. Now, I don't want to keep on asking if you guys have questions. Let me just quickly rush down. Then, if I get to a certain point, I will attend to questions. If you have questions, just note them down. Now, Euro GBP. Now, I've explained the Euro GBP before, and the only thing I'm looking out for is a down. It's a down movement, a bearish movement. That's the sell. Reason being this is the kind of structure that we have on the Euro USD right now. Impulse, then a WXY correction, then the next impulse. Now, the for the Euro USD, I think we are somewhere around here. And so no, we are somewhere around here. Let me, this was what it did initially, this Euro USD. If I go back to that chart, you'll be able to see it clearly. I know many of you already have an expectation. Okay, I think it's on the weekly time frame. Okay, exactly this. So now we are in this, but you need to first correct before we go to the upside, or it might go for the Z, because based on my counting, we have a WXYXZ, or it can just be a simple WXY, where this is your WXY, and this keep on going to the upside. But I'm expecting a down movement before it goes to the upside. But whichever the case that it is, we are going to know when price eventually does it. But in the Euro GBP, it has already completed the next impulse to the upside, which is this. It has done this already. And so we are having an ABC correction. So inside the ABC correction, you expect, now price is still ranging in this area, and I'm still expecting it to test this zone before we start having any movement to the upside. But my the problem now is that for the GBP USD, this is Euro slash GBP, and right here, it means that for this pair to come down, the pounds needs to be strong. And we know that the pound is not strong right now, based on what we can see on the GBP USD, where it has finished its corrective phase and is going for the next impulse down. And so we are expecting USD to be strong relative to the pound. If USD is strong relative to the pound, then it means that pounds will be so weak, it will be too weak for it to drive. It will be too weak for it to drive the Euro GBP downwards right here. So that is why you might expect, you might experience a fluctuation around here. If there's no if GBP is strong, for instance, it's just going to do an ABCDE correction, which is what I was expecting for that. From this E, it will come for the next impulse downward. But that didn't happen, and I understand why it didn't happen. Is because GBP has been weak relative to the USD, and that's what is going to drive this market down. So over a period, you might expect this to do this because GDP is not strong right now. And so if euro is strong relative to the GDP, they can have this formation to the upside before coming, and it's going to give you the similar structure that you have on the euro JPY. This that I showed you right here. I think I showed you on the weekly. You might have something that looks like this, exactly this. You might have something that looks like this on the Euro GBP chart, which is this. So you might have something that looks exactly like what we have had before, where you have this, and market will still go up again before eventually now come to the downside. But I am not going to be trading the Euro GBP for now because of the confusion between the pairs and the euro. Now, for the euro card, I told you guys before, this arrow shows that this was where my prediction was initially. That is going to go up, then we are now going to have a downside. For this euro card, I'm also not going to be trading it. I'm not going to be trading it because it has a dual setup. Now, the dual setup is this. On the weekly time frame, the structure here that I can see is not a down structure, is an up structure, but this arrow is the one for the daily time frame. This structure that I'm looking at on the weekly time frame shows that price is supposed to go for this impulse to the upside. Now on the daily time frame, I had something opposite. I have an opposite structure, which is this, and is expected to come down. If I zoom in higher, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. Now, this is the cipher pattern. By the time I go to where my software is, you'll be able to see the cipher pattern clearly. Let me go to Euro card right here, daily time frame. Then you will see what I'm talking about right here. Now, if I let you see the sharp pattern, sorry, which is this XAY. B, C, and D. Now the D is going to end around the 1.13 around here, or it's going to end at the 88.6, whichever I want to do. But for the sake of simplicity, I would like to leave it to end here. Now, if you are going to calculate the extension level of this move to the downside, you will see that price eventually stop at the 127.2. That's where it's rejected before you start having that sell to the downside, and it completely rejected this zone on 3 attempts on this daily time frame. So, which gives an indication that you are in for a proper sell. If you draw your trend line right here, you'll be able to see the pattern clearly by the time I go to the lower time frame. And so on the lower time frame, you're having something that looks like this. So invariably, you might have this. Price might go out to the upside, then come and start resuming the downtrend. So this is what you need to watch out for. You are not supposed to sell immediately because on this structure, price is already around the support of the trend line. So you might have a retracement to the upside first before price start going lower. Now I've finished the Euro pairs. All indication of the Euro pairs are showing a down movement, but we are still expecting a retracement to the upside first before we now start going for the next impulse downwards. I will open up the stuff right now and ask for anybody who asks question before I go to the pound space. Any question? Any question before I go to the pound space? Any question before I go to the pound space? Dr. Muller, you're welcome.
Thank you, bro.
Yeah. I want to go to the pound space. I've finished the Euro pairs. Do you have any question on that?
No, please. You have actually hit on all the points. There is nothing to talk about now.
Okay, so let's go to the pound space then. I'll mute everybody now. So for GDP USD, I've already talked about it when I was talking about the Euro GBP, but the structure still remains the same. This is the long-term setup that I've done since last year, and that's how to trade as a professional trader. You're supposed to have a long-term foresight of what price could do. Now, I told you guys, if you remember that I was saying it that you guys should not be looking for a buy around here anymore because I could see that we are in a corrective structure on the weekly time frame. And so because it's on the weekly time frame, it might take days or sometimes even weeks, about 2 weeks or thereabout, for it to complete. And eventually, I'm expecting price to do this kind of a movement, this movement right here, before this now happen. That is exactly what I'm expecting right here, before we now have this. So it is now clear that we are still expecting a one more impulse to the downside before we can start thinking of buying this. Now, pounds have not gotten to the level of it being very strong after the Brexit effect. So right now, I'm not looking for any buy. And right here, it just finished its WXYXZ correction, which is this. And we're expecting this to start going to the downside. And so this activity right here, this one right here, is what I could see as a stop hunt, and especially to test the trade and the account size and the patience of many traders. A whole lot of traders are going to have missed from this move to the downside, and it still boils down to skills and experience. When you have some certain experience, you will know what price is doing, and you won't fret at all. Now, if I go to the daily time frame, if I go to the 4-hour time frame, this is what we had, and this was what I gave to you guys in the group, where I gave you this structure of harmonic pattern. I think this was either Gatley. It should be Gatley, maybe 3. So I gave you something like this in the group, and I told you to sell from there, from that zone, and so I gave you in the group. I think, let me quickly check. GBP, yeah. Those are what I saw there, and I could see that what happened what was happening before this move to the upside. This one, where is this? This move to the upside is just a pullback of this. It's just a pullback of this, and so if price fails to break above this zone, then you are going to have this move to the downside. That was where the signal came from, and just like I told you before, for the Euro USD, for instance, I told you guys that we are expecting a pullback. And so we might have a similar structure right here um, on the 4 hours time frame. The fact that we saw the overall structure as down move in the weekly time frame doesn't mean prices just keep on going down, down. No. You as a professional trader, you're supposed to know that price move in waves. And so this can be your first wave, your wave one. Let me try to clear this and change to this. This can be your dashboard U2. So this can be your wave one, your wave two, and your wave three, for instance. So you might have it that price is going to pull back for wave four before it ends for the wave five downwards. Then the normal ABC. So what I'm saying in essence is this: if you look at where this wave three ended, let's calculate the Fibonacci expansion for us to see where that level is. As you can see, this is the 161.8 extension, and the rule says that wave three has to be a minimum of extension of 161.8 of wave one. And so what I'm expecting right here going forward is something that looks like a complex fall. This, where price can do something like this before it ends for the move for downward for wave five. But the way to trade this is this: when price gets to this area, you don't sell. If you are selling your sell, you are supposed to have breaking even and move your stop to your entry. Now you don't sell. You wait for price to come down and come and retest this area. This is where your second sell can be. And if you are going to edge, this is where you are supposed to edge right now. This area is where you are supposed to edge. Well, there are some things I cannot start explaining to you guys right now because it's going to take much of our time. Now, for the yen, this yen, I also gave it to you guys. Let's go to the daily time frame, the analysis right there. This was where I gave the sell setup on the yen before. This place was where I gave the sell setup before. But price only came down a little here and went up again. But it doesn't change the structure. The structure still remains. It has to come down to this area. It has to come down to this area before it starts going to the upside. I gave that setup on my trading view also. Where's the trading view? Right here. Clear. Is there any search here? Okay. There's a search here. Now, if I come down, you'll be able to see my foresight of the GDP JPY, which is this. I gave this, and I put the invalid zone at the very top right here. Right here. It's because I calculated the Fibonacci extension, and if price breaks above this area, that is when we are no more going to go to the downside. But it can still go up. That was why somebody was asking me in the group that is, GDP JPY still valid. The setup is it still valid? I said yes. That if it fails this Gartley pattern, most likely we might be in a cipher or shark, and it doesn't invalidate the sell setup. What we can see on the daily time frame is that price is supposed to go down, and eventually it invalidated this Gartley, but went up for the cipher pattern and came down. Now, everything in the market has rules. There are rules guiding everything, and that's why you realize that when market got to this area, it pulled back, and you need to understand why did it pull back. It's because we had this structure right there on the no, I'm not looking for electric right now. I'm looking for harmonic pattern, and I think I will go for cipher or shark. So this is what we have, and I think it's a shark pattern where you have this and this around the 70%. then you have this, and finally this. And if you check the zone, it's going to give you around the, it might not have finished the pattern, it might not have finished the downtrend, but the pattern is that it's going to give you something within the 1.13 extension for this high, from this low to this high. It's going to give you about the 113.1, 113.1 to, no, 161.8, sorry. So as you can see, right here was where you had the 161.8 extension, and price immediately get to this zone, it's rejected it straight up. Now, if you are not in this move to the upside, you don't need to bother yourself, because we still have more move to the downside based on what we can see right here. Price has not gotten to where it's supposed to start buying. So this is just going to be a pullback, and you might not have something like this. So for some of you that are buying right here, you should just be mindful of the fact that price can start consolidating. That is, after it does this, do something like this, come down and start going to the downside. It will give you something that looks like this. Exactly something that looks like this. So if you are going to sell this pair, for instance, you're not going to sell it here. You have to wait. As a pro trader, you need to always wait. You don't sell it right here, because there's a possibility that after you get down here, it's still going to come back up. Now, this is where you now take your proper entry, because it can just be an A, B, C correction to start going to the downside. So that ends the GDP JPY. So what I've told you so far is this. Yes, we have this cipher pattern that shows we are going to go to the upside, but the pattern is going to be invalidated by what we had on the higher time frame. The take profit for any pattern is the 38.2 level, 38.2 to 50%. So that means if you are buying, you are supposed to take your profit around this zone here, because as this market is going to get to this area, I can reject it and keep ranging to go to the downside. Then pounds chief. Now for this setup, let's start with the daily time frame and look at what we have right here. Now right here, I have given this sell setup from the top based on the structure that I can see. Based on this structure that I can see right here, I know it's going to break it lower and it's going to come and test this E, because the overall structure is the corrective A, B, C, D, E. Before we now go to the downside, we are in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. By the time I go to the higher time frame, you will see it clearly on the higher time frame, the weekly time frame right here. So we are, I was still expecting that price is going to get to this yellow zone before we now start talking of another move to the upside, which was the reason for all this. If you zoom it lower, you see the overall time frame, wave 1, wave 2, or wave 3, or wave 4. So I'm expecting that price will still get to this area. Now, if I go to the 4 hours, what happened right here? Because I remember that there are some people that were trying to sell the DJP chef, and they kept on, price kept on going up. Price went up to this area. It came up again here. It came up again here, and they don't understand the structure. The structure is very simple. The structure is this. Now, this is what we call the tree drive, and it's very close to the ending diagonal. And the setup is this. By the time you calculate the Fibonacci expansion of this move to the downside, this retracement, price is going to retrace around the this 127.2 that you can see right here. This 127.2, price is going to retrace around there. Now, after it retraces there, it's supposed to go higher again. That is the setup. That is how that formation is. And if you are not knowledgeable as a trader, you will not know. Now, if I take it down again and calculate it again, you see that price still got around the 127.2 again and came down. So until when it has done it about 3 times, that is when you can now have a break to the downside from here. So we are expecting more downside, and this market is going to go minimum of, okay, now it got to the 161.8% right here. It got to the 161. Let me go to the 1 hour time frame so you see clearly. It got to the 161.8 right here and rejected it. Now, this rejection is not a rejection for a buy, it's a pullback. That means the people that started selling here, they put their target around this 161.8. They take profit. So that's what is happening right now. And so you might have another correction phase before markets start going to the downside. Pump card. Now, the structure that I showed you on the Euro GBP, was it daily or weekly? Was it Euro JPY? I think it's Euro JPY. Yeah, this structure that I showed you on these 4 hours and also on the weekly time frame, this structure is what you are now having on this GBP card 4 hour time frame. And that's why you will see that it's going to break below this neckline, no doubt. Anytime you have those kind of formation, it's going to break below this neckline. No doubt. Anytime you have that kind of formation, markets usually sell huge. And so, if you want to know where you ought to have entered from, there are some things I'm giving right here that, ordinarily I'm not supposed to do that, but it's no problem. If you want to know where you ought to have sold from, if, for instance, you are so blind not to see this, I'm sorry for using the word blind. If you are so blind not to have seen this zone, then there's another way you would have known where to enter from, or if you want to automate your trading system, which is this, from this high to this low, and it's going to reject it around the 127.2 to 161.8, 161.8 zone. This area will be your sell zone, which is eventually what happened, and you are going to have this blast to the downside where this neckline will break. But I'm not going to tell you to enter the trade immediately at market open. I'm going to advise you to let it come down a little, let it come down a little, or show you on the lower time frame. You can see this pattern very well. Let me clear this drawing and let us go to the 15 minutes time frame, and let's see the kind of pattern we would get there. Delete this. Yeah. So you would see this kind of structure on the 15 minutes time frame. Here may be respected, and here will be respected. So price can go up to this area, and this is where you want to look out for sell. If you miss the sell, then I'm not sure if this market is going to come back again for you to enter before it blasts to the downside. But this is the area where you need to watch out to take your sell position. For GDP AUD, I gave this pattern on in the group also, and I don't know if some of you were out of it, but it was a very clear and easy pattern to see on the GDP AUD daily time frame. I've always been telling you that don't be looking for any buy opportunity at all for the GDP pairs, because we are in a corrective phase, and the corrective phase is very obvious, which is your 1, 2, 3, 4, and we are still expecting the next movement to the downside. So you have your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which completes your wave 4. Then we are supposed to now have this to the downside, but it just didn't go to the downside. It actually pulled back. Now, after I got to that zone, I observed what was happening, that this is a pullback to give us an harmonic pattern. And if I zoom it higher, you'll be able to see that the sell was even very obvious based on this structure, this right here, and this right here. So it means even if this market is going to go up and keep going up, it needs to first get to this area first. Yeah, you need to get to this area first before it goes up. So that was why I gave that call in the group that you should look for a sell. And if we go to the higher time frame, you will see, okay, even on TradingView, there was a time I gave the setup for GBP AUD, and before market got there, I've been predicting this GBP AUD for the past 2 years or thereabout. Wave by wave, I've been predicting it. And this was the last one I did. And I've been so lazy to always go to the trading view. So I could see that this is where we have a break. And so I said, sell the breakout. So what price did was first to go up a little, then break. After breaking it, it went up again. And it's still expected to go for this next impulse to the downside. So if you go to the lower time frame, the 4-hour time frame, for instance, let me clear this. If you go to the lower time frame, for instance, the setup is still very valid. Some of you just don't know how to look for. There are some things I can't be staying in the group because even if I say it, some people will still not understand. Just here, and you can see that market respected the 127.2 and came down. After it respected the 127.2, it went up again, and we had this. And you see have it that it respected the 127.161.8 and came down. And this structure remains valid. This is what you're going to have, and it's going to be the tree drive or something that looks like the ending diagram before you now have, it's going to give you something like this before you now have it blast to the downside. But then what we can see on the higher time frame is a very perfect or the bar pattern that I just showed to you guys. And so I'm expecting that price is going to get to the 88.6% zone before we might even start having a retracement to the upside. Yet this becomes the neckline right here. So even if price is going to go up, at least it needs to get to this area. Yeah, it needs to get to this area before any story. Now, the GDP, anytime you are selling the GDP AUD, you should also be looking for an opportunity to sell the GDP New Zealand because they have the same um, peer peer character. For instance, this GDP, then odd and New Zealand share border. So most times, whatever affect the Australian usually affect the New Zealand, and we have this kind of structure again on the GDP New Zealand. This, and this, just as we have it on the Euro GDP that I showed you guys eventually. So if you are somebody that used to look at patterns very well, you would have been able to see this opportunity for you to be in a sell. And on the daily time frame, for instance, this is what we had. We have this. So I'm still expecting, so this is your wave 4, for instance. I'm still expecting this impulse move to the downside where you have the complete correction A, B, C, D, E, and your wave 4 going for the final impulse to the downside. So every pounds pair still have about one impulse move to
We can't hear you. We can't hear you.
Hello. Hello.
Okay, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
We can hear you.
Okay. Okay. Do we have do you have any question? Can I go on?
I'm breaking. I'm breaking.
The voice is breaking.
Okay, I'm going to move you guys and I'm going to move you guys and I will go on. Okay, my voice is breaking. Let me log out. Let me try to log out and log in. I'm guessing the network is the network problem. Can you guys hear me? I just sent a chat to you guys. If you can just know, or if there's a problem, a chat. Let me. Okay, Lawrence says he can hear me. Does anybody has any problem also? Just let me know so I can continue. Okay. So seeing that about 2 or 3 people can hear me, then let me just continue. So the pounds pair. If you have questions, you can ask me group. Let me just go to the USD JPY. Now for the USD JPY, I've already explained this structure to you guys before. And so I told you that I gave you a cell from here. The cell setup was from here. From here was where I gave the cell setup and we killed. And I told you that this is your way and you wait for the zone. And we still have a final downside before we start going forward, before we start going up. This is a correct move to the upside correction where you have WX or XZ before you now start going to the structure that looks that of the Euro so the let's actually we have the JPY. Now this is what we that we can see have something some and end a descent, usually a continuation to the downside. Then you have A, B, C, D, E before start going for that. So yeah, I think that the started, but they're in a correct. This is what price to do before going to the maybe section. We are on YouTube. To be the end cost I did not see it to be the end of the downside. This, I don't know, something like this, move upside, but the over remains C and correct deep for you guys. But we'll see how what I can have a structure that looks very best right here. So price either do this just right now. Price can either do this and go to clear clear pattern that USD chair. I won't really be trading USD. For the USD card, I showed you guys before you that we had a 1 to 5 and here we now yeah, look guys, I think I'm having a very bad internet connection right now, and it wasn't like that before. So I may have to try to end the session right now. Well, let me try to see if I can attend to one or two questions. Does anybody have any question? I will attend to some questions right now. Then the other ones that I was not able to touch are just the USD card, the AUD, just about 5 more pairs that I couldn't touch. But what I want to tell you guys right now is that for the USD card, you are supposed to be in a sell after a market open tomorrow, for instance. You are supposed to be in a sell based on this structure that we can see right here. You see have a down, you see have a down movement. So you are supposed to be in this sell. Do we question? Any question? If anybody have any question, don't let me know. I will attend to that in a group. So let us bring this class to a close. Take care, guys.